Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining myself, Atir, and Sarah today as we discuss bringing harmony to data exchange with Symphony Provider Directory. So really, as we think about the vision of Symphony, Symphony really, as you look at the left-hand side, and I think many of you have probably seen this, really the current state shows, visually depicts how messy, complex, and complicated the current process of sharing provider data amongst the providers and plans, as well as Cover California, currently looks like. Now, obviously, on the right-hand side, this depicts the future state of Symphony. The vision is pretty simple. What our goal is to streamline the way plans and providers share, validate, reconcile provider information within California, and it essentially puts Symphony in the middle as a source of provider data. So as we think about data exchange as a conversation and the need to speak the same language, well, look at me, I'm speaking English, but obviously I have a Scottish accent, so dialect is important. And for those who may have attended the Symphony session at last November's IHA Stakeholder Virtual Conference, I did introduce this notion of the same language. And when we want to exchange data, what's really critical is ensuring that we're all on the same page when it comes to what we're exchanging, how we're exchanging it, and what rules we are following to exchange data, particularly provider data. For Symphony to support the data exchange between contracted partners, we need to be able to map the data using the common language that's been defined, and creating that common language is core and integral to building the industry-wide solution, which we all fondly know as today as Symphony. The complexity of provider data and our clients' proprietary designs means finding a solution that's common, but to answer these complex problems, such as the standard language for data exchange. So when you think about it, an industry-wide collaboration like Symphony has never been executed before, so anytime we need to find the answer to a problem, there really has no precedence. We make assumptions on what may work, but then we need to back up those assumptions with the analysis and the testing before presenting those options to the industry. And then after working closely, our goal is to bring the information to our data governance, as well as consult with regulators. And here we have the three-tier model. So in the next few slides, we're going to talk through what that looks like and how we got to the decision and why now. So as a result, Symphony implemented the common language, which was formally approved by the Symphony Data Governance User Group, which many of the participants today have been attending. The model essentially uses data attributes related to contracted party, so payer, line of business, which is typically commercial, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and then plan type, HMO, PPO, EPO. And this enables the ability to align networks across shared contracted plans and providers within Symphony Provider Directory. And Atir's going to talk a little bit more about what this actually looks like within the data model. But within the model, this will allow Symphony to link data to contracted Symphony plans or providers at the line of business and plan type level. And once everyone is speaking the same language as a program, we're beginning to move closer to that industry-wide standardization. And the reason we chose this model as a common language for our clients in our industry is because it does offer the right level of granularity where we can exchange data between health plans and providers in the standardized manner that the industry needs. It eliminates any proprietary labeling or nomenclature so that everyone is speaking the common language. It also, and this is critically important for Symphony for California, it allows us to scale as we align networks across all clients and the healthcare industry. So one of the questions that some of you may be asking is why now? Well, over the past few years, we have been working, and as I alluded to earlier, with our participants, the regulators, associations and stakeholders to build best practices for exchanging provider data and interpreting compliance regulations. And Symphony remains true to the core of working across the industry to make this happen. And it really occurs with the collaboration, building the industry-wide alignment as well as teamwork across plans, and it benefits all parties and contributors. Again, another really important context is standardization, and this is very critical for Symphony and a focus for 2021. Having standardization, a common language really does enable consistency in the analysis as well as identifying gaps. And then finally, iteration. It allows us to enable consistency and drive scalability across the industry. Now, we recognise that this work requires more from your organisations. It also requires more for Symphony to work with you. But we strongly believe that this is truly the best path forward in really driving scalability and standardisation across the networks. Now, as I shared earlier, the Data Governance User Group approved the definitions. Moreover, recognising that IHA as an organisation works across the industry and convenes stakeholders, I feel it's critically important that we share with you who's been involved in this journey, at which point, and show the timeline. So let me just kind of talk through this momentarily. So to begin, Symphony initiated the conversation with our stakeholders in October of 2019, and it was facilitated through our Data Governance User Group meeting. And I believe several of you were actually in attendance at that session. It occurred during the IHA stakeholders meeting when we met in LA. And believe it or not, that was before we entered a world of virtual, so we were actually there in person. And then in March 2020, a key milestone occurred. IHA approved the alignment and the terms. And during the January and the February data governance discussions, stakeholders had the opportunity to weigh in on the approach. No concerns were raised. And at the end of March 30th, actually, IHA submitted to the DMHC the proposed definitions. Now, we continued to discuss network alignment during the Q2 timeframe. However, the regulator officially signed off, and that's DMHC, in August of 2020. And then in the month of September, that initiated Symphony beginning to inform members of the Data Governance User Group of the regulator's approval, as well as kicking off communications to our stakeholders and clients about the approval. And then in November 2020, we began the implementation of the three-tier alignment within the Symphony data model. This also was the kickoff of our client success managers initiating conversations with many of you regarding what this would look like and beginning to work with each of you. And Sarah will provide some updates and some key statistics and milestones that have occurred. Again, I'm sure you can all appreciate the complexity of gaining stakeholder and regulatory agreement and the importance of ensuring that the right people are at the table at the right time.